Dozens of dogs, by some accounts more than 50 over the course of several decades, have jumped from the exact same spot on a bridge in West Dunbartonshire, Scotland, according to local reports and press investigations. Not scattered across the structure, not at random, the same parapet, the same side, the same 50-foot drop onto the rocky gorge below. And it has been happening, repeatedly, consistently, since at least the mid-20th century, according to local accounts and press investigations that have tracked the incidents over the decades. Something is pulling them over the edge. The question is what? By the end of this, you will understand every serious explanation that science and investigation have produced, and you will be left with the one detail that none of them can fully resolve. Because the strangest part of this story isn't the deaths, it's what the survivors do. Stay with that thought. Overtoun Bridge sits on the edge of Overtoun Estate near Dumbarton, Scotland. Built in 1895 from granite, it arches over the Overtoun Burn, a narrow, fast-moving stream cutting through a steep wooded gorge. The estate itself is Victorian Gothic in character, grey stone, iron gates, mist-draped hills, the kind of landscape that makes you lower your voice without knowing why. The reports began accumulating in the mid-20th century. Dogs, almost always long-snouted breeds, collies, Labradors, retrievers, would approach the bridge during walks, reach a specific point on the right-hand side of the parapet, and leap. Some died on impact. Some survived and climbed back up. And here is the detail that makes this story genuinely disturbing. Several of those survivors went back to the same spot and jumped again. Local accounts grew loud enough that the story eventually reached the international press. The bridge earned a name it was never meant to have, the Dog Suicide Bridge. Animal behaviorists, journalists, and researchers descended on Dunbartonshire to find out what was happening. But here's where it gets interesting. The explanation that eventually emerged wasn't supernatural. It was olfactory. An animal habitat specialist named David Sexton, whose investigation was reported across multiple outlets covering the Overtoun phenomenon, conducted an on-site study and identified a likely culprit, mink, and mink urine specifically, along with the scent markings of other small mammals including mice and rats living in the dense vegetation along the gorge wall directly beneath that section of the parapet. To a dog with a powerful nose, that concentrated invisible cloud of scent rising from below would be overwhelming, intoxicating even. The stone parapet is just high enough that a dog cannot see over it, cannot gauge depth or danger. It can only follow the scent, and it jumps towards something it cannot see. The theory is compelling. It is the most scientifically grounded explanation on the table. But it cannot fully account for every documented variable, and this is the part nobody talks about. All of the jumps cluster at the same section of the parapet, not spread evenly where scent might logically drift, the same spot. And the cases span decades, across different seasons, different weather conditions, different dogs with no connection to one another. Researcher Paul Owens, who investigated the phenomenon and published his findings through the Animals and Men journal, documented the incident pattern and noted its remarkable consistency across reported cases. Celtic mythology, meanwhile, offers its own dark interpretation. Overtoun is considered in local folklore to be a thin place, a location where the boundary between the living world and what lies beyond it is unusually permeable. Some cultures have always believed certain animals can sense what humans cannot. Science doesn't trade in thin places. But science also acknowledges that canine olfactory sensitivity is widely estimated by researchers to be tens of thousands of times more acute than that of a human. Some studies place the figure even higher depending on the scent, meaning dogs inhabit an aromatic world almost entirely invisible to us. What we cannot smell, they are swimming in. What we cannot perceive, they might be compelled by in ways we have no framework to measure. Remember what was said at the start, the survivors who went back and jumped again. That is the detail no scent-based theory fully resolves. A dog that survives a 50-foot fall, recovers, returns to the same parapet, and jumps a second time is not following an olfactory reflex. That is something else, something that looks uncomfortably like intention. Overtoun Bridge still stands. People still walk their dogs there, and the incidents, though less frequently reported, have not stopped entirely. The granite parapet hasn't changed. The gorge below hasn't changed. The mist still comes in off the hills in the evening, thick and low, the way it always has. Science gave us the most credible answer available, and it is a good answer. It may even be the right one. But the dog that jumps twice, what is it going back for?